So, hi everyone, and thank you for joining this morning, and welcome to this second presentation on smart cities and the power of data, struggling to regulate Uber and Airbnb in Switzerland. And before I really dive into the topic, I would like to try to define the notion of smart city. The reason why I would like to do that is because it is not a straightforward process. As of today, there is no clear-cut definition of what a smart city is, and there are as many definitions as there are smart city projects. So, as an example, I would like to present you the approach that was taken by the city of Zurich in their smart city strategy that was published in December 2018. We can read the following statement. For the city of Zurich, smart means networking people, organizations, and infrastructures in such a way that social, ecological, and economic added value is created. The networking of data, sensors, and applications enables new and more efficient solutions for users and urban infrastructures, as well as for their operators. The good networking with the population strengthens participation opportunities and contact with the administration. And this sentence reflects really the main idea behind, if not all, at least most smart city frameworks, that is harnessing new technologies to make things better. Now, making things better can mean several things, depending on each city's vision of what a smart city should be, but the core goal is really to use new technologies to improve urban life. And this core idea is perfectly here summarized in this quotation from Antoine Picon. Smart cities develop ICTs to improve the quality of urban services and or even reduce its cost. It designates a type of urban development capable of responding to the changing or emerging needs of institutions, businesses, and citizens in economic, social, and environmental terms. So now I gave you quite a optimistic and positive image of smart cities, but as you can see, it's not that simple. The progressive move of digital technologies to the center stage of urban systems also raised new issues and new questions, and technological developments also pose new challenges for the public sector to take actions and implement new strategies and new forms of control without also at the same time completely preventing innovation. So when technology is involved, there are usually two types of challenges that are usually frequently addressed. The first one are issues that are pertaining to data protection and basically everything that is related to data transparency and the respect of data privacy. And the second types of issues are the ones that are related to the regulating issues that are posed by the digital economy. And even if those two different types of regulatory challenges are not necessarily disconnected from one another, in this presentation I will mainly focus on the latter. Now, the term sharing economy or digital economy or digital economy or platform economy refers to every economic or social activity that involves a direct contact between a supplier and a customer. And this direct contact is usually established via an online platform. Now, this new business model has gained incredible importance in the past few years, especially due to the rise of two minor companies you might have heard of that are Airbnb and Uber. Those two global companies have been radically transforming traditional industries that are very crucial for the functioning and the development of cities all around the world, namely transportation in the case of Uber and housing or tourism in the case of Airbnb. And the greatest challenge for cities is really to try to find the correct balance between embracing these new platforms and the many opportunities and benefits they offer to residents, and at the same time regulate them in the name of equal opportunities, safety, and responsibility. Now, as you can see on this graph, as everywhere else in the world, the sharing economy is continuously growing in Switzerland and across every industrial sector. And Airbnb and Uber, more particularly, are considerably strengthening their presence in Swiss cities. And this presentation is based on a paper that is co-written with Professor Daniel Kübler, and in which we decided to analyze how Swiss local governments react to the arrival of those two major platforms. And being the first such study that was conducted in Switzerland, we essentially adopted an exploratory approach, and we seek to answer the following three questions. So how have urban political actors debating the regulatory challenges of digital platforms in Swiss cities? How have urban governments responded to these challenges, and what are the main difficulties or challenges that they have encountered? Now, to do that, we conducted a comparative case study across 6 different Swiss municipalities, namely Zurich, Geneva, Aarau, Neuchâtel, and Montreux and Davos. And we deliberately selected 3 cities that are located in 3 French-speaking cities and 3 German-speaking cities. And we also chose 2 cities with dissimilar socioeconomic profiles. We have Geneva and Zurich as major economic poles. We have Davos and Montreux that are small cities with a very strong touristic appeal. And we have Aarau and Neuchâtel that are 2 small cities with rather little tourism. Now, regarding how local governments perceived Airbnb and Uber, what we've noticed is that there are mainly 3 different approaches that were taken in cities. The first one is the idea of there is no problem. There, Airbnb and Uber are usually very much welcome, and they are seen as a way to increase the city's touristic and economic appeal. The second option was like that in some cities, the arrival of Airbnb and Uber triggered the mobilization of traditional stakeholders in the targeted industrial sectors that were touched by the actions of Airbnb and Uber. Here, mostly the hotel and the taxi industries that are requesting new regulations to ensure a level playing field. And the third type of reaction occurred in Zurich, Geneva, and a little bit also in Montreux. And there, Airbnb and Uber triggered really intense political struggles that really went beyond sectorial interests. In those cities, the platform economy really had become a matter of wider urban policy that really needs to be addressed and regulated. So in an attempt to find patterns regarding how Swiss cities react to Airbnb and Uber, we had identified 2 major aspects. The first one is structural aspects. So reactions tend to differ according to the importance of those industrial sectors that are targeted by Uber and Airbnb's activities. So basically the tightness of the housing market, transport demands, or the touristic appeal of a city. And the second aspects are the political configurations. So reactions also tend to differ according to the constellations of actors that are involved in political struggles over the sharing economy. So which political parties are involved and what's the discursive construction of the problem. Now, about depending on how the problem was defined, cities adopted different regulatory approaches that I will develop further here. In the case of Uber, we mostly identified 2 types of responses. The first one are federal decisions, and that's mostly the case for Uber that has been banned in Geneva last year, and that is since then constantly claiming that they will appeal this decision to the federal courts. So this is an ongoing process. And the second approach is an upscaling of taxi regulations from the municipal to the cantonal level. So Uber is not available everywhere in Switzerland, but in the 3 Swiss cities that were studied here and in which Uber is available, so Geneva, Zurich, and Montreux, new laws were voted at the cantonal level, and those regulations involve several measures that are specifically targeting Uber's activities. And in the case of Airbnb, we identified 3 types of regulatory approaches. The first one is the no change approach. So in those cities, Airbnb is seen or perceived as a good complement to existing hotel offers. And the idea is that there is no need for new regulations and that existing laws are sufficient to tackle the problem. The second approach are bilateral agreements between local governments and Airbnb. This was the case in Geneva and in Zurich. Geneva, I think it happened last week or 2 weeks ago, and it's ongoing in Montreux. So the idea is to have a bilateral agreement for an automatic collection of the city tax directly via Airbnb websites and from Airbnb. And the final approach are basically the implementation of new restrictions on short-term accommodations. This happened in Geneva, where Airbnb rentals are now limited to 90 nights per year. And it's also an ongoing discussion in Montreux, or in the canton of Vaud in general. Now, the main challenges local governments encountered regarding regulation was really the access to data. Digital businesses tend to really protect their data and are quite reticent to disclose any information they possess because it gives them a strategic advantage over their competitors. So as a consequence, governments as regulators often lack the information that's necessary to map the scale of the phenomena they are trying to regulate and to develop suitable strategies for an effective enforcement of the new laws. So what can they do? We identified some compensation strategies, 3 actually. The first one are offline actions. Those means basically strengthening and increasing the number of police controls and sanctioning non-compliance behaviors. Then we have incentive schemes. Those were mainly implemented in Davos and Montreux, where tourism office try to attract people and visitors to pay the city tax in exchange of a guest card that would give them free public transports and or discounts for touristic activities and so on and so forth. And the last one is monitoring activities directly on Airbnb and Uber's platforms. And that was, for example, the case in Neuchâtel, where the city mobilized a team of municipal agents to manually skim through Airbnb's website and try to map every information that was disclosed on Airbnb on the website directly. So this is possible in Neuchâtel, that is a quite small city, but would be impossible in bigger cities that would count several thousands of accommodations that would be available on the platform. So in order to overcome these difficulties, some European cities have engaged into web scraping strategies. This is the case, for example, of the city of Amsterdam and the city of Paris that have been using web scraping tools to retrieve Airbnb data from the web page directly for surveillance and regulation purposes. And for the moment, there is no evidence that Swiss cities have engaged in this sort of web scraping procedures, and this is probably due to the fact that it is unclear if such data gathering activities are illegal according to the Swiss laws. So I think I'm out of time. I will briefly conclude. So the arrival of Airbnb and Uber in Switzerland has led to very different perception of the problem and also have caused different regulatory responses. And the main challenge is really the challenge of governing without data, which can cause major law enforcement issues. And that also shows that there is an urgency need in Switzerland to discuss the need to establish a legal basis regarding data collection and analysis from public authorities in order to enforce effective regulations, and especially in the field of the digital economy that is kind of shady for now. And that's it for me. Thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you.